nutraceuticals, and we're here to share a dose of knowledge on what works, what won't. We'll entertain you and we'll show us innovative.
Oh my God, we're having so much fun here. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. This is Todd Runstead from Next USA.
This is Devon Golom from Step Change Innovations.
And
we're the
we're the
Nutraceuticals.
Nutraceuticals.
We cover
That's
that
right.
water.
We're the Nutraceuticals. This is the Dose Ingredient Supplement Podcast. We're here for you. Devon, you have made a name for yourself in this industry recently because at the trade show formerly known as Supply Side East, now rebranded to Supply Side Connect, New Jersey.
Yep.
There you were on stage.
Yep.
You had something quite provocative to say, something that would thrill and amaze the likes of Katy Perry, the likes of Paris Hilton, the likes of Kim Kardashian, the likes of even Madonna, for those of you of a certain age. I don't know if she's still around. I think she might still be around.
She is. She went to the same high school my dad went to, actually.
Wow.
Small world.
And your dad is not a virgin either.
I'm here.
Now, if you do artificial insemination, are you still a virgin?
That's a good question.
These are the issues that we're going to talk about.
First world problems.
First world problems, that's right. Yeah, yeah. On that little island populated by penguins that has a 10% tariff hit on it, they're not talking about IVF. They might be talking about krill and omega-3s.
That's a possibility.
It's a possibility. So Devon, your money quote, what was that there on the stage of Supply Side?
I'm very proud of my vagina. Yes, I said that on stage. In a room full of people. It was in context. I was asked what the white space is that we see in the supplement arena, and I said women's health. And Cassie, who we love, she loves to destigmatize the word vagina, so she's saying vagina into the microphone, and I'm like, vagina, heck yeah! I have no problem saying it. I'm very proud of my vagina. And then it felt like an eternity in my head after I said this. I've watched the video and I recovered fairly quickly, but yeah,
it might have been an eternity. There's like an 18-minute gap in that video that they had to cut because that was the eternity on stage.
No, it was like 1 or 2 seconds. It took a minute to sink in that I said this loud, and then I went on talking about women's health because women's health includes the vagina, and we need to be okay saying that.
Yes, I can't wait to go forth in my life. I'm meeting some friends at a microbrew tonight, and I'm going to try to put that word vagina in context. I'm not just going to whip it out at random.
Yeah, you can do that with other parts of your body. We can't.
Don't be a Richard. I could say that. But
yes, you could.
But if you say, don't be a vagina, and especially that epithet word, for some reason that's tamer in the UK than it is in the US. In the US, that's probably the worst thing you could say to someone. But in the context of vagina, in the context of women's health, in the context of menopause, perimenopause, fertility, of all the things, it's important. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about this. I do want to take a moment just for a little shameless self-promotion. Shatavari, that won the best ingredient of the year for women's health in the Ingredient Idol contest that I was the MC for. Perhaps some of you saw that out there in Radioland, or if, on the trade show. It was a packed house there. That's a fun time. And we also have a modern Shatavari, 15% Shatavarins, and so. You can file that under shameless self-promotion. But Shatavari, that it balances hormones, and so it's good for everything from fertility to perimenopause. You know how we're talking about perimenopause. This is like the great new category of supplements that are out there. It's so exciting because there's always innovations in supplement land, and a great deal of these innovations they come from ingredients, right? Ingredients that
Yes.
power supplements. So
Absolutely. And a lot of it is coming from like shatavari, like ashwagandha. They're herbs that are traditionally used or used in traditional medicine in parts of Asia. So we're finally like in this East meets West, herbs and standardized extracts being used to help with modern medicine. It's
yeah,
kind of great.
right.
I'm really enjoying it at this point in my life because I kind of need the extra help.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So, I mean, so perimenopause, that's just a short period of time. Menopause, that'll last a lot longer. But it's really critical.
No, 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 no.
I have
So,
that wrong.
yes.
I'm not in touch with my feminine side, people, clearly.
That's okay. So menopause is that 1 day, or menopause just means 1 year since you've last had a period. So menopause is just kind of this magical, moment in time. But we, as an industry, that's all we talk about is like, so even menopausal, like it really could be perimenopausal because it's all the symptoms leading up. So perimenopause can last anywhere from 2 to 10 years. God, I hope it's two in my case because I'm really not enjoying it. But
Wait, say that
yeah,
again. What can last between 2 and 10?
perimenopause.
Perimenopause.
So
What?
yeah, yeah. So
I'm being
imagine,
educated, kids, right here, right in front of you.
so yeah, so imagine having hot flashes like, yeah, for 10 years. Not fun. That's why I love studying these ingredients. I actually have an article coming out about it in Supply Side Supplement Journal next month, talking about ingredients that help with hormonal balancing because hormone replacement therapy is great and I'm on it myself, but it's not an option for everyone. And there may be people that just don't want to take hormones to figure out or to help with what's going on as they're going through this change. So it's nice that there's ingredients like shatavari from NXT. There's lots of others. There's shatavari, there's ashwagandha, fenugreek, shilajit is another one. There's some
Right?
good
Yeah.
stuff out there.
And I want to talk about all those things, but let's circle back to our marching orders, not marching orders, but our what I wake up to every day, which is efficacious doses of clinically validated ingredients. And so when we talk about excuse me, shatavari, and I hear that in India they would pronounce it shatavari, and in the U.S. some people pronounce it shatavari. Shat,
Yeah.
I don't know. Shatavari. I got that in my head. It took me a little while to get there. But so there have been some
Same.
clinical studies showing 250 milligrams twice a day, so 500. That was conducted by Walarius,
Their Asperus ingredient.
Walaria Health Tech, and their Asperus ingredient. And then so the next we've got that's a 5% shot of Arns, and then so
Mhm.
next has 15%. And so the clinical studies that we've done, there's been three, you can get away with 50 to 100 milligrams. And so that's cool, particularly if you want to formulate into some sophisticated formulation with other ingredients in there too. So cool stuff about
Yes,
shatavari. This is the ingredient of 2025. Um,
for sure.
so I'm
It's
really
the
excited about
queen, right?
yeah,
Ashwagandha's the king, Shatavari the queen.
I know, isn't that so cool? So
Yeah,
talk a little bit about the king, because ashwagandha, the efficacious dose is kind of all over the map depending on which branded ingredient you've got.
absolutely. And even within ingredients. So KSM 66 is obviously the most popular ashwagandha out on the market.
Right.
And it's a great product. I enjoy it and I take it myself.
And the studies are 300 milligrams twice a day.
Yes, so a lot of them are 600, but there have been, and the one that they did in perimenopause was for 600 milligrams a day. But they have also done studies showing that there's benefits at 250 milligrams a day,
Ooh,
specifically around sleep and mood. Yeah, good stuff,
wow.
right? So we talked a lot about efficacious dose and what that means
Right.
on our first podcast, but it's also important to remember that the dosage that we use, it, there could be different dosages tied with different benefits depending on what was
Interesting.
studied.
Yeah, so if you're making a supplement product, if you're a brand, if you're a marketer and you got a good idea, look at what the science says
Mhm.
and then formulate with that amount. Don't
Yes.
fucking
Yes.
pixie dust us
Don't pixie dust.
like that. Ah.
No.
Because you're not going to get you're going to damage the whole category. You're going to damage your brand because people are going to be like, "Oh, I took it and it didn't work." If it's an experiential, or a lot of times, it's like a lot of supplements they say are hope in a bottle. Oh, I'm taking this fish oil and I'm hoping that I don't have a sudden death, heart attack
No.
in like 20 years. You know,
No, we need to use the efficacious dose because that's what's tied to the science and that's what's actually giving us the benefits. And the supplement industry already gets a bad rap with people thinking that we're not regulated, and we are, spoiler alert.
indeed.
So we're already dealing with trust issues. So, it's incumbent upon all of us, ingredient suppliers to encourage their clients to use the right amount, but also finished goods and CPGs, like use the right amount that's in there that's tied to literature so people actually benefit from your product and will keep coming back to take it.
Yeah, and so the other big, it was sort of like the two biggest branded ingredients as it comes to the king of Ayurveda, so of ashwagandha. So you have the KSM, which the original research kind of honed in on this 300 milligrams twice a day. Then you have the Sensoril,
Sensoril.
which is only 250 milligrams because it's more of the withanolides, and so they concentrate that in.
And they're different. The ashwagandha, or sorry, KSM 66 is root only. Sensoril is a root and a leaf extract.
Yeah,
So
right.
so there's some different withanolides between the root versus the
Yeah,
leaf.
yeah. And then you get to just like commodity ashwagandha, which you see a lot of, and those dosages are even different.
Mhm.
So you just gotta, and so these are all the calculations when you're designing a product is, how much do you want to spend? How many like micro pennies do you want to spend per serving or whatever? That always just bugged me how you would have these ingredients and it's like, okay, we want this hero ingredient, but it can't be more than 4 cents per serving. And I'm like, you're charging $30 a bottle, like why? And there's like the bean counters who are like, oh,
Oh
it
yeah.
can't be more than 10% of the total cost has to be the functional ingredients because there's the bottle and the shipping and the distribution.
On
Like,
my side of things with formulation and working with our operations company, I've often heard like 10 cents per serving is a sweet spot. But if you're doing a formulation that has, more than one branded ingredient, then, you got to share the love with the money too.
right. Interesting. So that's the king and the queen is ashwagandha and shatavari of the
Yes.
Ayurvedic set. But there's other
Yes.
things. How about shilajit? This is another ingredient that I first saw U Theory. They use that in their product in their finished product, and I was like, "What's that?" And this was it was right when we were coming out of COVID. I remember it was like that first expo after COVID where so maybe that was maybe Expo West 2022, maybe that was. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, that's new. That's interesting." And I
Hmm.
I think I think Kerry has that.
Yes.
Their
Prima
supply.
V. Prima
Yeah.
V is their Shilajit ingredient.
And oh yes, so Shilajit, what I think is fascinating about that is so yeah, it's an Ayurvedic ingredient, right? And so when I think Ayurveda, I think India, but it's right next to India is Nepal. And so
Yes.
that is the Himalayas. And look,
Yes.
I have there's the prayer flags on my arm there. And if I rip this up,
Show us your ink, Todd. Show
I
us that
the
ink.
most beautiful mountain in all the world is right there, Ahmad Dablam.
Right on your shoulder. Very nice.
It's right there, that one.
Nice. Have
Anyway,
you been?
um, yeah. So Shilajit, it's a natural substance found in the Himalayas, and so you got to get up into the high country. And what is what can you tell us about this Shilajit? Does it taste like Shilajit, or what sounds like
If
Shilajit?
you take out the J, sh the
The,
LAJ,
the
and the
first two and the
second
last two
I,
letters.
and put that together, that's what it tastes like, at least when I've tried formulating with it. Yeah, it's horrible. It is disgusting, but it's a rock exudate. It's like
Right. So
it's
this is really
this.
funny. I just asked Chat, my friend, about Shilajit, and it says it's a black, sticky, resinous substance. That kind of sounds like
Sounds like shit.
and it
Yeah.
oozes from the cracks. Hello, we're talking shit again in rocks, particularly in the Himalaya mountains.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's it. Shit came from shilajit. And so maybe the etymology, I'll have to go back into my English major textbooks there to find out where did shit come from. It's a classic phoneme fricative,
is it a
like,
Latin root?
yeah, I don't
Who
know.
knows?
So it's a
You'll
black sticky
find out.
resinous substance and it oozes from the cracks and rocks. And we take that.
Yeah.
And so yet it works for women's health. And so
And
what's that
men's
about?
health. And men's health.
And men's
It
health.
just helps with hormonal balance in both men and women. A lot of these do. Like the shilajit, but also fenugreek. They're ingredients that just work for hormonal balancing in both men and women. Fenugreek can help with overcoming a lot of the issues that we have as perimenopausal women, but it also can help boost testosterone in guys. So
Crazy.
it's interesting. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's with all the talk that, men's health, hello, we see commercials for boner pills like all the time on
dick
TV,
pills.
right? So it's so interesting to
Don't be
me
a
how
Richard.
don't be a Richard, how there's been this focus on men's sexual health for so long, and especially with pharmaceuticals. And then we
Right.
have these supplement ingredients that, are used to help boost testosterone and, especially with men as they're aging and sports nutrition and all that. But they work for women too. Why did it take so long for it to come out that they help us too? Tell me, Todd, tell me.
Because it's a man's world, sister. That's why.
Not anymore, it's not.
I know, no offense, Kamala, you didn't get that memo. But yeah, it is interesting because women were not studied for the longest time. I think because
Yeah.
researchers were like, because they're so complex. Because
It's
I mean,
hormones. You
it's
guys
the
have
hormones.
hormones too. Like it's not the hormones. I've said this on stage several times. Like it shouldn't be looked at as a burden or a barrier. It should be looked at as an opportunity. Yes, hormones are going to add a lot more variability into your scientific data. So study more of us, and then you can narrow in on different categories or different times of the month. Because think about it. We're so varied, Todd. Like we vary, across the different times of our lives, but even like within like our normal menstruating years, we are different from week to week to week, depending on what phase of your period you're in. So yeah, we are complex, but that is something to be celebrated, not looked upon. But yeah, to your point, they had to pass a law to get women in clinical trials as opposed to just studying guys.
Right? That's crazy. I
Yeah.
do want to point out that since you just said that it varies from week to week, it's hard to be a guy. All we want to do is serve you, but you just change from week to week. That's so
Oh,
difficult.
that's very kind of you, Todd. You are obviously of a different breed because a lot of guys out there live to be served, not to serve. So
Oh,
thank you. You're a good egg. You're a good egg.
man, you're so horrible. Like I look at my local baseball team, the Colorado Rockies. They suck. They're gonna suck all season long. So I could just be like, I got it. I'll go to a game, and I just know that they're gonna lose, and maybe they'll surprise me and they'll win. But it's like fine. Like
That's like the
I'm
Cleveland Browns.
correctamundo.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, like what if you have a team that it's like, oh, like sure you suck, but then next week all of a sudden you're really good, and then all of a sudden the next week you're like in the middle, and you're like, oh my god, how do I fan that? Oh my god. I don't want this to be the week that they suck that I'm wearing my jersey walking down the street. People are like, oh my god, they lost 24-2 last night. So very difficult. So yeah,
Welcome to my world.
yeah. So I'm just randomly on the site 9 benefits of Shilajit. Number 1, prevent or slow Alzheimer's disease. Obviously, this is not a brand site because you're violating structure function claims right there. But hey, you can say it, freedom of speech. Raise testosterone. Number 2, ding. To your
Yep.
point, treat chronic fatigue, slow aging, reduce altitude sickness, which makes sense because since it grows at
Because it grows at high altitude. That's
5,000,
fascinating.
8,000 meters, crazy. Treat iron deficiency anemia. Treat infertility, really, male infertility, not even women. Yeah, wasn't it so interesting how kings, when like the queens couldn't give birth, and so off with your head because you didn't give me a baby. And it turned out that like most of that was because it was the king, it was your sperm, idiot, you know. But
Yeah.
it was very much a man's world then. It's like it
Yeah.
wasn't me. They didn't know these things.
No,
Oh my God, wait,
reproductive
another
health
joke.
goes
Can I
both ways.
can I tell a
Uh-oh.
sperm joke?
As long as it's not a dad joke.
This is not a dad joke. No,
Okay.
this is not a
I'm
joke
game.
this is not a joke I would tell my 7-year-old kid when my daughters when they were 7. But so yeah, so there they are, a bunch of sperm, and they're hanging out, and they're just like hanging out and partying, being sociable, being sperms the way they are. But there was this one sperm, Stanley sperm. He didn't hang out with all the other reindeer sperm. He would like go off and he was like working out and like swimming and like doing laps and like doing all these speed reps and things like that, and just like working out all the time. Finally, one day, one of the sperms swims up to him. This is not a pumpkin seed joke, but that does improve the motility and mobility of sperm. Because, thank you. I'm just rattling off things here. We are the nutraceuticals, people. This isn't just
We're
inappropriate dad jokes.
we're
Um,
here to give good information.
that's right. That's right. And so somebody says, Stanley, how come you're not playing with all of us? How come like you're always just like doing there, like working out? And Stanley says, I know that out of the 32 trillion of us in here, only one of us get to go down there and become what's going to be eventually a human. And when that day comes, I'm going to be that sperm. Sperm's like, okay, great. So swims away. And then all of a sudden, one day, they all felt themselves getting hotter and hotter, and they knew it was their time to go. Poof! And there they went, swimming, getting blasted down through the internal plumbing of the human body. And of
The
course,
vaginal canal, Todd. I guess out of your
that's right. Yeah,
your
we haven't reached that spot yet.
through the urethra. Sorry.
That's right. You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead.
There's a
And
vas deferens.
that's right. There's a vast difference in the vast deference. So
Yeah.
there was Stanley swimming. He was far ahead of the pack. And then all of a sudden, Stanley stops and he puts on the brake and he starts swimming back against the tide, and he's screaming, "Go back, go back. It's fellatio.
Oh God.
Come on." It's a little funny. It's a little funny. Treating infertility with Shilajit. That's right. That's what we're talking about here. In one study, infertile men took Shilajit twice daily for 90 days after meals. At the end of the 90-day period, more than 60%, 6 in 10 of the study participants showed an increase in total sperm count. That's not helping Stanley. Now he has more competition. More than 12% had an increase in sperm motility. That means they're boogieing.
Yeah.
Sperm motility refers to, yeah. So that's an important part of fertility. There's lots of different ways that you can blow it, as it were, with. Hey,
That was horrible, Todd.
that just came out of my mouth. Sorry. This is bad. Support heart health. Improve bone density in females. These are the ingredients that only Katy Perry and Paris Hilton would appreciate. Paris Hilton, that's how she first gained notoriety as a celebrity, because there she was in a darkened hotel room doing something that would disappoint Stanley's sperm.
Well, I'm
Yes.
gonna be more proud of the fact that I just said that I'm proud of my vagina on stage as opposed to being famous for a sex tape. So
Right?
I'm on a better path, I think. But Paris
Yeah,
Hilton is an incredibly successful woman, so more
I
power
know.
to her.
And it all happened because of that grainy video in some darkened hotel room. Crazy. Yeah, so fenugreek, I remember when fenugreek came out, and so that was a Libifem from Gencor, right?
Yes.
And it was women's libido. And this was like 10 years ago when it came out, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's finally something for women." It was always these Richard pills that like are, chances are, if they worked, it was sildenafil. It was a pharmaceutical drug masquerading as a supplement. And oh my God, like that's not good. In fact, I did research on this, professional research, kids, on
Did you did you take all the different boner pills like you did the pet supplements in the video? Oh God.
that might hurt.
Just
But
a little
no,
bit.
no, I didn't. This was an academic study, and there was this one brand, and I went on. It was some notorious brand, and I went on Amazon to look at it, and there was like a dozen or more of here's the front of pack label of the supplement brand. And so if you go on Amazon, one of the rules of Amazon is you have to include the supplement facts panel on
Mhm.
every supplement that you do.
And you'd
And
be
so I was
surprised
looking,
how many don't. Oh my God, there's tons of them that don't.
really?
Oh yeah.
I always see, because whenever I want to look at a supplements fact panel, I'm like, I'm just going to go to Amazon because they know they're going to have it. I haven't run into the situation where it hasn't been there.
Oh, I have
Ugh,
multiple times. Eek.
bummer. So anyway, in this case, um, on these boner pills, and I looked, and again, the front of pack label was the same on all of them, but on the back of the pack, they would have different addresses where they were manufactured. They would have
Oh,
different ingredients. Some of them were like, oh, this is hemp CBD. Some of them were like, oh, this is like the horny goat weed, in some like big formula with all this other stuff. And it would have different amounts. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, and so
but they're the
I'm
same brand?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so what? Oh, and at different price points. So some of them were like, oh, $20 for the dick pills. It went up for like to like 120, like a buck and a quarter for it. Different price points, because some people, I think they realized, people are attracted to different things. Some people think,
Yeah.
well, if I pay $100, that shit's definitely going to work, But if I
Yeah.
pay 20, maybe that's all I can afford. Oh, but look, it's CBD in this one. Oh, this one has horny goat weed. Fact of the matter is, if any of them worked, and maybe they all worked, it was had a pharmaceutical in it. It was a
Yeah.
BS supplement, masquerading as a supplement, but it was really adulterated. And and
Huh.
and so and then if it worked, and so chances are equal that it didn't work, and it was like whatever it had in it, and they're making money off it. So
That's interesting. I mean,
I know.
and that's why one reason I'm glad there's all these different ingredients that can help both on the men and the women's side, because not everything is going to work for everyone. There's never a one size fits all solution. So the fact that we have a lot of different things is pretty cool.
One size does not fit all, you say. Interesting. Let's talk about libido and lubrication. When I think of lubrication, I think of, it just so happened. When I think of lubrication, I think of topical applications of lubrication. Um, kids.
Yes.
Um, but
I mean, that's definitely a more immediate thing. If you need the lubrication to have your KY or whatever lubrication of
right,
choice handy. But
fortunately.
there are a lot of ingredients that you can take to help with libido and arousal, because as women go through this wonderful change of life, things get a little dry and dusty down there. So sometimes we need a little extra help.
Dry and dusty down there, and and so that's part of the beauty from within thing, where you can take something orally, as it were, and it could help um,
I th-
other parts of your body, right?
Well, I think of beauty from within more as like taking things to help your skin look well. I don't know that everyone's going to be looking at the downstairs to see how beautiful it's looking, but they're both important. They're both important for how women feel.
Correct. The things that I could say. I'm getting hot and bothered here. My lawyer is telling me to be quiet. Don't say anything more.
Are
Um,
you having a hot flash, Todd? I mean, I'm
I
getting
am having a
moist.
hot flash
I'm
right
getting
about now.
moist having this discussion. Had to work the word moist in there somehow when I knew we
Yeah,
were going to talk
y-
about
you know,
this.
and so there's also there's probiotics that
Yes.
can also work, which is like just one of these. Like, what can't probiotics do? If you formulate correctly, efficacious doses of clinically validated ingredients.
Yep.
I was saying, like, at least 10 years ago, wait until strains get figured out. Then the promise of probiotics is actually going to meet the consumer base.
Oh,
And
100%.
and we're there now, I think, where
Yes.
where you're starting to
Absolutely, we
see
are.
you're starting to see a lot of these supplements with, it's not just like, oh, here's acidophilus and like 7 other things, and maybe it's got an inulin for a prebiotic, the lunchbox for the bacteria, and there it is. But now it's like HN101,
Mhm.
and LGG. That's probably the most famous
Yep,
strain.
absolutely.
Lactobacillus, what is it, Goldman and whatever the G and G stands for. These two Boston University researchers. But
Yeah, that I don't remember.
yeah, right. So it's interesting because when I think like probably the first probiotic that any girl ever hears about is acidophilus, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a
it's not
common
for
one.
libido. It's actually, it kind of gets in the way because they have a yeast infection. And they're like, oh, I hear that you can take this thing called acidophilus for my yeast infection, right? And
Yeah.
so now, but there are strains. I was asking my friend Chat to like, named some of them: L. rhamnosus, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, GR1, as well as L. reuteri, RC14, showed to support and restore healthy vaginal flora.
Yeah.
It's different from your classic yeast infection for some of these things.
Well, it makes sense though, because we talk a lot about the gut microbiome with probiotics. I'm sure we'll have a whole other podcast on this later, but
Yeah,
we have the vaginal microbiome too, and we get yeast infections when our microbiome was completely out of balance. So it makes sense that taking probiotics can help put things back in place, just like they help our gut and different functions of digestive health. But of course, as we see with all the different strains coming out, you've got all the different ties to different parts of the body.
right. Yeah, and so then it's incumbent upon supplement formulators to again match the ingredient with the clinically validated dose, efficacious doses of clinically validated ingredients. And then you can, and then make that
Absolutely.
claim off of that. So don't just put in a billion CFUs of
Yeah.
acidophilus and say
And
this is
and
anti.
don't put
Right.
in just an acidophilus strain if the strain if or just the species in general. If the
Right.
study was done on a specific strain, put that strain in. I mean, all of these probiotics, acidophilus, you could probably take anything, any acidophilus, and it's going to give you some sort of benefit. But if you're looking specifically for, help with lady problems, take that strain.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And you can go into the store and you can see, I love when I see uh supplements that are out there and they have a list. It's like, oh, 50 billion CFUs, and they have a list of like 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever it is, and they're all specific strains. You could tell it's a strain because it has after the Latin binomial genus species like Lactobacillus acidophilus, then it'll have like numbers and letters after it.
Yep, some sort of designation. Yep.
That tells you that it's like, oh, okay, this is a specific strain that's probably been studied. And so maybe you have to trust the supplement brand that, okay, if they're using a strain, then they probably thought about it. And so I think I can trust it. But you can also, I've been in stores and I just whip out my phone and I'm like, okay, well, here's that strain. And then here's what the supplement says it's supposed to be good for, vaginal health or libido or whatever it might be. And type in that. And then you could see, and then you could see what the studies say. And then, so here's this one last thing I want to talk about as it relates to the probiotics is one, the studies, they put it in, they don't actually put it in billions of CFUs, which like colony forming units, that's the way to measure probiotics,
Mhm.
but they'll say like 10 to the 9. And it took me a
Yes.
long time. I'm like, oh my God, what does that mean? I'm not a mathematician, but
I
10 to the
you
9
just
means a
said you
billion.
were good at math, either earlier in this podcast or the last one. You said you were good at math. Come on, Todd.
10 to the 9 equals 1 billion.
Yes,
10 to the 10 is 10 billion,
it's
right?
okay. Even though I've got the fancy initials after my name, I still need to sit and think about it sometimes too. And I have a
Yeah.
math minor. It
Uh,
still takes some brain power to figure this crap out.
yeah. I didn't, yeah. Let's not. So, but anyway, then the other aspect of probiotics is, so yeah, there's this billion sort of CFUs. Every once in a while, you'll see a brand, a finished product brand on the supplement facts panel that'll put it in terms of milligrams. Don't do
Mhm.
that. Stop doing that. Don't do that. You're confusing people. And I think we have all agreed that it's billions. It's 10 to the 9, 10 to the 10, like whatever it's going to be, you know.
For
And
active probiotics, yes. For postbiotics, I wouldn't be surprised if we see milligrams more often because it can be very hard to enumerate the postbiotics, which are the dead bacteria. Postbiotics.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and enumerate means to count.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
yeah,
Sorry.
right.
Using fancy PhD speak for a
Right, right.
minute.
I first heard that term when I was at Ganadin, a brand out there in Cleveland area.
I worked
And
for them a long time ago.
did you? Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Toward the facility with old pal Hank Schultz and with Mike Bush was running the show, and Joe Bradley, who's there too, who's now the CEO of Step Change Innovations, right?
Yep.
Joe.
That's my
Um,
boss.
yeah.
He
So
hates it when I call him that, but I still call him that.
that's cool. So yeah, people like to say more isn't necessarily better, and it's like, okay, not necessarily, but a lot of times, but like with the Ganadin BC30, the research was it was only 1 billion CFUs
Yes.
was enough to meet the claim of digestion and immunity. So you could make
Yes.
that sort of claim.
BC30 was really special though because it was the first spore forming probiotic on the
Right.
scene. So
Yeah.
spores are kind of almost like a natural encapsulant. They're like dormant cells, whereas a lot of the Lactobacillus acidophilus, for instance, those are traditional lactic acid bacteria will get knocked out with heat, and you have to dose so many of them because a lot of them don't survive going through the stomach. But with the BC30, having that natural encapsulation, it survived a lot better. So you didn't need as many CFUs to have an impact.
Can you make that little shoulder move that you just did? You said, oh, you would be so good on the dance floor. I think I was dancing with you on that ship at Supply Side.
Yes, we had a great time on the dance floor. It was a lot of fun.
I just saw Uday Gosalia. He just posted this great little video of that boat ride on LinkedIn. And
Yeah, I think we ended up in the end of it.
We did.
Around the
And
dance
I saw
floor.
myself dancing, and I was like, I could dance. Look at that guy.
Yeah, I think you were dancing better than I was.
I was into it,
You got some rhythm.
Dancing's good for the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't think we have any supplements that say anything about make a structure function claim around soul yet. But innovation continues apace, and for now, the new news in supplements is perimenopause.
Yes.
There's all kinds of new things, and we're going to get to all of them as time goes by here on the Dose podcast. I think let's wrap it up right there. You're Devin
That sounds
Golem.
good. You're Todd Runnestad.
And
Runnestad. I'm still working on that.
Yeah, you can run instead. There was this town in Norway called Runstad, and how they might pronounce it in the old country. And so runes is like, that ancient alphabet, like the rune stones that you could throw. And so I was at some event one time, and some guy, like the guy who's checking me and sees my name, is like, oh, Runestad, that's the town of writers. You must be a writer. And I was like, I am a writer. He was like, well, you were born to be one. And I was like, wow, man, that's cool. But we got Ellis Islanded, and so I usually pronounce it Runstead and not Runestead. But I come calling to all those things. So it's all good. We are the Nutraceuticos. And we'll see you next time here on your favorite streaming service, podcast, vodcast.
Whatever we're doing, we're figuring out as we go. But thank you.
Right. This is all good times here. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
We are the Nutraceuticals.